Welcome back to the Bridget Mabandla Justice College here in the nation's capital. And it is, of course, day 161 of the Madlanga Commission. And what an interesting week it has been. And joining us now, as we always do in this segment, we get some analysis. And we joined this morning. We missed him yesterday, but he made it here on time today. It was both our... we confirmed with Ntate Tebogokas, but he said, he wasn't sure, but we are sure today. Thanks so much for coming through. Tebogokas is, of course, founder and chairperson of Public Interest SA, and Roland Henwood is a lecturer in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Let's get straight into it. Very interesting week, but let's take it from yesterday. So one of those days again when there was no witness before the commission, but the evidence spoke volumes. And we saw yesterday the WhatsApp messages from the devices of the late taxi boss, Mswazi, or Jothan Mswazi, Mnisi, Msibi. And of course, we read through that, and it revealed some interesting connections, intersections. You're looking at the connections between the cartel, allegedly, and also the law and enforcement entities. There was the city of Ekurhuleni that came out of there. There were business interests that were also involved in that. But let me get your assessment of what we saw yesterday. Let me start with you, Roland.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. The fact that there was no witness did not make it a boring day. I think what we again saw yesterday is the meticulous preparation of commissioners, of the investigations, and then the well-prepared way in which the evidence is presented. And the fact that there is no one to testify, in a sense, makes it an easy process. It sanitizes it in a way, that there's no interjections, the storyline is not broken, it is it's flowing. And then the interesting part is that a lot of what have been implied in the past and what people have said in the past are now coming together. We're seeing the names being linked. But not only names being linked. I mean, if we go back a little bit, we now start filling in the picture huge amounts of money that is involved in this. And then other elements that come into play, and that is, in a way, policing work being done privately, off the books in a way. And so it's been a really interesting day. And I think it sets up the commission for today and next week especially. And probably be very interesting.
Dare I say that policing work being done very effectively in terms of how quickly things turn around. Tate Tebogo?
Sakina, there's a saying that dead men tell no tales. I think yesterday it was debunked, it was upended. In his grave, or from his grave, Jotam Sibi told explosive tales through his the affidavit that was read out by Matthew Chaskelson. And we could not have thought that the kind of detail, despite there being no witness in person, that we could get or glean from what was actually deposed of. And the players that were also implicated, or if I may use that term, through that testimony. And for us, it was an eye-opener. And some of the dots are beginning to connect, from the relationships within Ekurhuleni, the tenders that were spoken about even before they were actually even advertised, and how people were carving or divvying up the space in terms of the tenders through the Department of Transport and Ekurhuleni. And for me, what particularly also raised some eyebrows is the relationship between the Department of Transport and the taxi industries. It's an incestuous relationship, and I think we've been saying this for the longest of time. If you see all the transgressions happening within the taxi industry, where kids are being killed, scholar patrol killed, there's no enforcement of laws, and so you can add on and on and on. It has become a government on its own. So what we saw yesterday was a parallel government where we've seen even issues of grabbers coming into play, where people operating with apparent impunity. And if you could sell an instrument such as a grabber to or attempt to sell it to another government, it means you already have one that you are using locally to listen into the policing themselves, which is why the likes of Bheki Cele, for example, was too scared even of Jota Msibi or even the taxi industry. And now we see the impunity, how this thing is happening. And I think the dots are beginning to connect. And what we await is what will the commissioner or the commission do in terms of his recommendation in that space. There's many other nuggets that came out of yesterday's testimony.
To the issue of tenders, and we need to stop in this country pretending that we don't know how these things work. People spend lots of time completing these very arduous tender documents. But the reality is, and we've heard this for the longest time from so many avenues, that these tenders are already divvied up long before it is even advertised. You already know. And yesterday, through Msibi's WhatsApps, you get a clear sense of that, because the question is even asked whether this is spoken for, because they know this is how the system works.
Yeah, the collusion that happens before and during the process. Key issue is you need to have the right people in places. And if we listen to some of what is implied in also yesterday, it's not necessarily somebody that works with you, but somebody that is too scared to go against you. And the issue you raise of a parallel system is one that is not based on kinship and friendship. It's based on violence.
Yeah.
I mean, the reference to we don't just want the stolen goods, we want the arms as well, the weapons. That says a lot. It may look like just a flippant remark. It says a lot. That within these industries and the related and associated role players, it's about much more than just making money or getting tenders. There's something else in this also. And then you're getting a parallel system that is a criminal system that is running alongside and within the state. Now that's no wonder we have such a weakened state.
And of course, speaking to the Carney Links connection there, and the cargo that was stolen and then recovered very quickly and very effectively, to which you've just made mention. And this is where Kyle Phillips asked for the weapons to also be recovered, not just the cigars or cigarettes, but also the weapons that were stolen. And it comes back very quickly. And you can see that it is evident that Msibi knows everything that is going on.
Yeah, Sakina, work is cut out for crime intelligence, and we are not, I mean, it doesn't give us much comfort to learn about the kind of disability, self-created, and actually, you know, some of it would happen as a nature of how people work. And to realize also that there are institutions in the criminal justice system who are also weaponizing the system to try and disrupt crime intelligence. It's concerning, because things like this ought to have been picked up early. You cannot have somebody pretending to be government, pretending to representing the state, dealing in issues such as we saw Sergeant Nkosi being asked to do through a letterhead, pretending to be a government or a government representative when he was not. And we talk about a sergeant, not even a colonel or a brigadier or a...
But we've spoken about that before. And Sergeant Fannie Nkosi and how he remained as a sergeant, and seemingly that worked for him in terms of what else he was busy with.
He was not on his own. I think that's important. He worked within a system, and this is something else that struck me yesterday. Listen, we've spoken about parallel system, etc., but there's another ominous thing happening in South Africa, and we have to wake up to it, and that is the fact that we create a sense of normalcy, of laws and applying them. Question of arms and the licensing of arms and arms control. It's been in the news quite a lot in the last couple of weeks again. This fiction of control and who's suffering under that control. And then we see what's coming out here. where people are doing what they want to do, they are protected in the system, there's knowledge of this. That's one example. There are many others. Illegal selling of cigarettes, etc. There's another example. What's happening in the taxi industry. So we seem to have two systems, but multifaceted. We have the rules of the road. For some, it's applied, and then others have their own set of rules and we leave them. We see it with contraband, selling stuff, traffic, driving, taxi industry. We see it with licensing of arms and ammunition, and so on can continue. So we have to wake up in South Africa to the fact that we create the image of the system, but below this system there is mayhem, but it's left to continue. Now the question is this Commission going to pull the plug on that somehow, to some extent? We see action, but we need more than this.
Let me push that further, because is it just left to continue, or is it a function of those in law enforcement who are meant to curtail that, to deal with it, to arrest it, being part of the system that is perpetrating the ill?
Absolutely, Sakina, we cannot be blind to the fact that we know that the police themselves are complicit in the kind of impunity or crime that is happening within particular sectors. Here we're talking about the taxi industry. You just have to take the fact that if you are to use a Gau train to Pretoria, you cannot catch an Uber at the Pretoria station. You have to either walk a distance to go and catch it, or you use a bus to get somewhere into town and then catch a taxi, an Uber. Otherwise, because you are going to be met with violence, or the driver, the Uber driver. And it's not theory anymore. We've known individuals who've been killed, for example, just that. And why? Because the people who've got a stranglehold on the industry, even the legislature or the department itself of transport, are the ones who are also benefiting together with police. We've seen how the likes of Nkosi was facilitating security tenders within the city of Tshwane. Never mind what other aspects of the Department of Transport. And you ask yourself, if we are really going to get to the bottom of that, what will the recommendations be? And the Commission has got a finite time. I mean, it's not going to be here forever. But it's going to need to come up with crisp suggestions or recommendations based on particular segments of this, because this is madness. This is crazy. When you talk about state capture, at least there was some semblance of suits, ties, and and now we're talking about violence, where we know that they've created their own system that the state ought to be the one that carries the ultimate right to exact, to mete out violence if the need arises. But we've got private security companies owned or with relationships within the taxi industry itself. So that complicates the whole thing. Now you've got private security industry companies with grabbers roaming around our homes. We don't know if they're listening to us or they're protecting us. So that for us is the biggest fear as members of society, if you are really going to distill it to that level, to say, are we really safe as a country? Are we going to be safe? Will recommendations out of here actually be implemented to the extent that they ought to be?
Do we have a choice at this point? We don't. But as you say, we wait to see. Very briefly, we're running out of time, but I quickly want to come to Fadiel Adams, who's expected to testify here today. He was expected last week, but then, of course, we know what happened there. What are we expecting from Fadiel Adams today?
Important, it brings the political dimension back into play. Member of Parliament, central role in starting processes. Now, there are questions about the procedural correctness, the legality of what has happened. He was very unconvincing on the stand, so today may be difficult. I think the Commission will go deeply into what he says. Maybe just a comment linking to the previous discussion also. The element that we're seeing more and more are political names coming to the fore. Not just once in a while, more and more. I mean, yesterday we saw quite a lot of that. And the question is, dealing with this is going to require political decisions and political will. That's a big challenge.
That in itself is a challenge, but also the Commission has a challenge in that it's pressed for time. And the more names get mentioned, it means that the Commission will need more time to have those people come and give their side of the story as well.
Yeah. And that gives resonance to the argument that the Commission either mandate must be extended or a system similar to what is happening now be replicated across the country to make sure that you actually get to the nub of the matters that have actually been. I mean, we haven't even begun to talk about SAPRA, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, the dahas and the music that we listened to and danced to yesterday during the commission. You ask yourself, how far down have we gone as a country, and are we beyond redemption insofar as the criminal justice system is concerned? But I'm an eternal optimist, and I believe that things will come out right, because within the system there's an overwhelming majority of good men and women in blue and purple who want to do right by the mandate that or their responsibilities, but they're just being disappointed by some within the system. Some were also very influential within the system, I must also add, across the range.
Yeah, so you look at crime intelligence. Yeah. For so many years, South Africans have asked, where is crime intelligence? We see all of these things happening in the country, and people have asked, how come crime intelligence hasn't picked up on this? But I think this commission has given us a clearer indication of exactly what crime intelligence was busy with, and why perhaps we didn't see them as effective as we would have wanted to. I wish we had more time. We don't. But of course, another interesting day in prospect, and we'll pick up on that with Kenny Mapanga shortly. But for now, we'll leave it there. Roland Henwood from the University of Pretoria, and of course, Tebogo Kas from Public Interest South Africa, our analyst this morning.